What's going on YouTube? We are back again with another guide. I'm going to go ahead and finally break down the part 2 of reaching combat power 3000. I told you guys I was going to make a Lucent video the day after that. If you guys are new and just now watching this video and haven't watched part 1 of all the tasks, I will leave a link of that video up here and also at the end of the video. Now let's get into this video. Now this video is only about the auction. Okay, I'm going to give you 5 tips to turn your Lucent into basically doubling it by doing a certain method. But first we got to take a look at my sale history so you guys can get an idea of how I started to double this after learning this tip. Okay, so there it is guys. I've sold up to about 100 items. Okay, so I made about 7,000 Lucent. All right, so that is roughly about over $100 worth of Lucent that I saved by just doing certain tips that I will be telling you in this video. So I saved myself $100 of my hard-earned money by doing this method. So you guys can too as free-to-play players. So let's go ahead and dive into the first 5 tips. All right, the first tip is the easiest tip. Everybody is going to end up doing this regardless. What it is the open world. What do I mean by that? I mean the monsters in the open world. Preferably everything over 50 is what you're going to need to do to make a lot of Lucent. So I'm going to expect that you're already at level 50. All right, so everybody knows that that's pretty much at level 50 that the dungeons is your next move for the abyssal tokens to be spent. Now you can use shadow dungeon, desire as well, abyss, any of those dungeons. The point is, what I'm trying to make is, or you can go to Shatter Temple without using abyssal coins and just farm that. The point is, these monsters drop purple items. Okay, now rare items are also good too, so you can do like co-op dungeons as well. Yeah, you can do any of these co-op dungeons. It'll probably actually be more efficient for the RNG purposes. Just try to do the ones that have purple or blue armor, right? Once you get those blue and purple armors, that is the first thing you need to do. I'm gonna go ahead, I think I've already sold them, to be honest. Let me see if I have any left over. Let me check my bank. Okay, I sold all of mine, so I'm gonna just go ahead and use the auction, for example. All right, so now we went over the first tip, which is the open world, finding those monsters that are at like level 50 so you can get those purple and blue drops. Now tip number 2 is, what do we do with those purple and blue weapons and armor? All right, so the first things first to understand this is you need to figure out what weapons and armor pieces you need to maximize your build. Once you figure that out, every item that you get that is not for your build or any potential builds that you're trying to make in the future, or weapons you want to use within any of those builds, then you need to look that up in the auction place. So for example, try to memorize what I have here. I have basically some rings, but I have 2 blues. Now I got 3 blues, and then the rest is purple. But I know what my gear looks like, so I'm gonna break it down. Let's go, for example, and say let's go to the auction real quick. Look at these blue items. I don't have any of the blue items that are on this list. Now the reason for this is because I got this in the open world, so it didn't drop, or it didn't drop a similar item that I already have equipped. Now I need to look up to see, for example, this Crusader Gauntlet. So like it's got melee evasion. Okay, now does my armor piece, my arm, does it have melee evasion? No, it only has magic evasion, mana regen, and range evasion. So if it has a melee evasion, I need to sell that and extract the trait from it. Now in order to extract traits, I was just showcased like extracting trait. You click on, your R3, depending on if you're a console PC, whatever that is for you to get to that bottom menu. Then you go to trait extraction, and then you'll have highlighted armor pieces that you picked up from the open world because they're drops and you don't have them equipped. Then you'll be able to click on it, and then you'll have to do extraction stones, and then you'll extract it, and then you'll be able to sell it on the market. For blue items like this, for example, I would not lithograph those, or I just wouldn't lithograph those because they're not going to be worth that much. Okay, so you're going to be wasting resources on items that are not worth it. Now unless it's a really popular rare item, for example, then you need to really look that up, because some rare items are based off of like PvP builds, so you want to see what items are top notch for any of the builds in any of the classes. That way you'll know exactly what armor pieces or what weapon pieces can be sold for the most, and then you can lithograph those. But for those that are like random rare item drops that are not worth anything, then just extract those traits. Okay, so this is what it would look like in terms of that. Now this is tip number 2. Let's go to tip number 3. All right, step 3, I feel like, or tip 3, I feel like is the most important tip, because this is the tip that got me a lot of Lucent. Now I'm going to show you examples of what I mean by a lot of Lucent. So with one cell, I got 875. Now, for those who always been wondering, how do people sell the item itself, like without it being lithographed or a extracted trait, and it's just a pure item? Well, that's because of the term great success. All right, I will break that down in tip 4, but I wanted to showcase tip 3, an important way to do this. All right, so for items that you do need, for example, like I do need this belt, but I wanted to sell it because I crafted a great version of it. All right, so keep that in mind. Don't do a lithograph if you want an item and you need that item, but it gave you the wrong trait when you picked it up, and it was like, for example, like range evasion, but it gave you range endurance, and you don't want range endurance. Well, you want to go ahead and recraft it and try to get a great success from that. And then if you don't get a great success and it ends up being a trait that you actually need, then you can just use that item. If it doesn't, then you're gambling. So that's why I want to break it down a little bit further in tip 4. I just wanted to break that down in tip 3 to let you know that that is the method that you need to take. All right, so that's just one example, right? We got 875 for that, and then we got 870 for this one, for the ancient mantle, right? 1100 for a heroic staff of resistance. Heroic staff of resistance is not even a good weapon, but since I got a great success on it, it was worth a lot during that time, and I made 858 because of the tax of 23%. Instead of 22%, it went up 1%, but it was worth 1,100 before I got it. And this was a price that actually went down. This was originally worth 1,900. I think I got a clip of me selling one of these. I will show that right now. But before I show you guys that clip, I wanted to tell you guys, even lithographs are still pretty good. It just depends on the item. So yeah, I got 495 here, but you see the most comes from the great success. So let's go ahead and get into tip 4 so I can show you guys how to craft the great success. All right, tip 4 is an example. This is a footage of me actually going through the crafting process. So what I am looking up first is to see which item I have in my inventory that gives me the most Lucent once it becomes a great success. So I have several weapons and armor pieces between purple and rare. I think I mainly have purple in this one. So I'm just looking up each one of those different items. So I'm going to go ahead and skip forward and get to the next part. Now I'm looking up the heroic staff of resistance. As we guys seen that it was 1,100 when I got that actually in the previous footage. Well, now I'm looking at it and it's about 1,900 for a great success. So I was like, okay, that is almost 2,000 Lucent. Let me go ahead and craft that now. So what I'm currently doing is I'm going to plan on getting more rubrics. I didn't farm enough, especially I think they drop a lot in the Dungeon of Desire. So I definitely need to farm that some more. But instead, what I did was I actually just bought it with the Lucent I had. So I bought about 10 of those, and I ended up crafting uh, the heroic staff of resistance. All right, as you guys can see, I just crafted the lithograph, the blank lithograph page, and now I'm going to see what resources I need to craft the heroic staff of resistance. I want to make sure the only thing I need left is the lithograph. So now I know that I need is the lithograph, and we have it now. We're going to go ahead and merge the blank lithograph with the staff of resistance. All right, so now we merge them together. Now we're going to go ahead and actually craft it from the vendor. Yes, let's go. You see how it says great success on the top? That means I can sell it on the auction. I just figured this out like a couple weeks ago and I didn't know this, so I have to tell you guys. All right, this is the final tip. Tip 5. Now we're putting this all together with the great success. The biggest amount of Lucent you can possibly make with any item is a great success. Now we're putting it on the auction, and this is what it looks like when we're about to sell it. You see how much that is? That is over $50 in one sale alone. So I hope all of these 5 tips, which was actually a sequence of steps to get you guys to the highest and maximum amount of Lucent you can make per item, and the different choices you need to make for the items that you receive in the open world. So if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe if this helped you out, guys. And I will be making more videos throughout the week. So come on by and see what I got next. All right. So I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.